Sort of like Alexander Hamilton when he wanted George Washington to be a king. You know what I think will happen? Rand Paul wins by such a large number that all of their sneaking and trickery will not be enough to affect the outcome. And this collector of ballots who also wants to be on the Senate will be relegated to the dustbin of history where he belongs.
Well, we're already running out of time. It's always amazing having him. We got 15 minutes left here. I want to get into the book, Lies the Government Told You. But first, specifically, the Democrats and Lindsey Graham, the Republicans, they all know that carbon dioxide isn't bad. They all know that China isn't going to make the cuts. They all know that this will be industrial suicide. And we have all these big environmentalists saying they want to destroy our economy. Why does government want to destroy the economy?
Government wants to control us because of what St. Augustine called libido dominandi. Look, we all know about certain types of libido. This is a lust for power. Before the Civil War, we sent people to our state houses and to Congress who were interested in liberty, who were concerned with confining the government, with assuring that it did not interfere with our natural rights, with our civil liberties, and with our property rights. Since the Civil War, we have sent people to the government, by and large. There are exceptions both before the Civil War and afterwards. But by and large, people who are not interested in liberty, but people who are interested in power, power for its own sake, power in and of itself, power to control other people. Government attracts those who lust for power. Ron Paul and Rand Paul and Ron Paul's colleagues in the House, and if there are any in the Senate, I'm unaware of them, are the exception to the rule. But for the most part, this is the type of human being that the government attracts. And this type of illicit aggregation of power gets worse and worse and worse, because when they get power, they hand it off to their successors, just like Mike Chertoff handed it off to Janet Napolitano. And I know what you're thinking. The answer is no. We are not related. This happens generation after generation after generation. That's why I am not optimistic about our future, because it will take a generation of Doctors Paul to change this, to stop it, to reverse it.
Well, that's what G. Edward Griffin and others have said, though. We have to have the long view of history. We're not going to beat these people overnight. We've got to do everything we can and start resisting now just to slow it down and then stop it and then start reversing it. But the good news is this has really opened people's eyes up. The carbon taxes, the open borders, the takeover of the health care bill, the fact that it is just pure robbery, not even, benevolent socialism, which is an oxymoron. Right. Do you agree, though, that the battle lines are now drawn and that the awakening is exploding? I
do, and I believe that the great mass of independent voters are on the side of liberty in this. I believe that the average man and woman who accepted the government for what it was now fear it and now need to understand that they can change it. When I told a crowd in Florida the other night that we have the power to abolish the IRS, the place went wild with enthusiasm. And a couple people said to me, I didn't know that. I thought it was in the Constitution. I thought we had to have income taxes. We have the power, if we work hard enough and educate ourselves, to throw the yoke of tyranny off of us.
Okay, Judge, I'm going to give you the floor for the last 12 minutes, and we're going to skip this network break coming up. I'm going to sit back, and I want you to give us a speech, a rant, cover the book, any issues you want to cover, and I'll say bye to you, because I always get so intrigued, and I want to back up what you're saying. I'm always adding things. I want at the end of the interview, shut up. But before we do that, I want to encourage viewers to support this radio show and to support our films. We have 2 new films coming out in the middle of April. Order them at Infowars.com. Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA. You'll also see them premiere at PrisonPlanet.tv in super high quality. But go buy the DVDs, make copies, give them to everyone you know, because one of the most effective things that we have ever done is these films, and this unlocks people's minds. It shows them the predatory nature of this global elite. Please go to Infowars.com, purchase the books, the videos, the materials, because they're key tools to wake your friends and family up, and it supports this broadcast. Now, the only caveat or proviso, and I'm going to sit back and shut up, Judge, is before you get into the book and taxes and the nature of slavery and bondage and what we're truly going under, global government is openly being announced. Why do you think they're finally admitting that, okay, it's a world government, it's going to be run by banks, and what is the nature of this world government from your research, and then tie that in to the overarching system of why they want a global government, so no one can run and flee and set up societies that are free, because then that competes with the collectivist and outshines them in every case. So speak to that, and then you've got the floor in the last 11 minutes on any issue you want to cover.
Oh, you are so kind and so generous to me, Alex, and I'm deeply grateful to be here. Look, I'm just a simple night watchman that's employed by Fox. My job is to watch the government in the nighttime when it doesn't think that people are watching it and doesn't want people to look at it, to see what it is doing to steal our freedom and to steal our property. The one world government has been around since the progressive era. And you're right, Alex, these people are enormously patient. Obviously, the people who came up with this concept are no longer with us, but their successors are. They are wealthier, they are more sophisticated, and they are just as committed as their predecessors were. They simply want control. They want power for the joy of exercising power in and of itself. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. They don't want to have to answer to voters. They don't want to have to answer to a constitution that limits their behavior. They want to be able to take whatever property they can, whether they call it eminent domain or whatever they want to call the process by which they take it. They want to protect us cradle to grave so that we are totally dependent upon them for everything, so they can decide who will be in their group and who won't. If you read George Orwell's 1984, he was just off by a couple of years, but almost everything that was in there was predicted, and we see it now. The use of law to assault liberty and to steal property. Do you remember, Alex, studying basic American history? The King of England had ingenious ways to tax us. The last straw was the Stamp Act. It required that every colonist have on every piece of paper in his or her home a stamp. Every book, every bank draft, every mortgage, every lease, every deed, every pamphlet, even a poster that was going to be nailed to a tree had to have the king's stamp on it.